Ladies and gentlemen, in Retardistan, you can be caught with your hand in the cookie jar numerous times a day, and you'll never go to court. You can steal, you can bribe, you can murder. But you know what, Ramon? If you're found with a wig, there you go, man. You're done. You're done. You're nicked.
You are definitely nicked. And you don't have to be an ordinary person. This is the Speaker of Parliament. Some name I'm not going to attempt to pronounce because A, my voice is gone because I have AIDS, and B, I don't really care. But anyway, the real story is the Speaker of Parliament is in court as we speak because she doesn't want to get arrested for, well, corruption and bribery and all the other stuff ANC people do in their spare time. Allegations are she received 4.5 million rand in cash plus a wig from someone she gave a tender to while she was Minister of Defence. And it looks like the people that she gave the tender to have not been paid, so therefore they ratted her out.
Yeah, in unusual circumstances in Retardistan, it's the money spent, right? Or it gets offshored to Dubai. But you know what they found? They found the wig, mate. That's the evidence. They found the wig. I mean, of all the things in Retardistan to be found with and to basically get your hands in the cookie jar was a wig. So this is the news that the Speaker is basically saying she's not guilty of corruption. She never did any corruption. She's fully prepared to cooperate with the police. Only she's not prepared to cooperate with them, and she will interdict them from arresting her. Even though she respects the rule of law because she's an important person who's the head of Parliament, but she respects it so much that actually you can't arrest her because she's got privileges. And you know what? Just in case you do arrest her, she's going to take special leave and go to Switzerland. Retardistan, baby.
I mean, absolutely. A normal court of law, how it happens is you are arrested, you go to court for the bail application, and then you get bail. That's how it works all over the world, and this is how it works right here in South Africa. But the Speaker of Parliament refuses to be arrested or refuses to go to the police station to take, to give a statement in lieu of the charges given against her. And in court, she says this reminds her of the dark apartheid past, where, I don't know, people were trying to be given a free hearing, a fair trial, a bail application. Like, is that what the apartheid past did? I mean, maybe it wasn't that bad if that indeed was the case. But this woman, who's in a very prominent position of power, refuses just to take the basic steps of going to court and getting bail. And the NPA says, we're going to make sure she gets a substantial amount of bail, which goes to show they probably have a rock-solid case.
Yeah, so the news is that the NPA have an absolute ironclad case, which we've all heard before, right? We've all heard it in all the state capture stuff that nobody ever got arrested for, or at least sent to prison for. Ramon, the important part here out of the entire story is that Cyril has come out and said, we can't really condemn her yet because, there's processes that have to be followed. She's got to go to court. She says she's cooperating. And, we'll see what happens. But we can't cast in or make any judgment because it's too early. I'm reminded, Ramon, every time a allegation of racism is made in the state, does Cyril come out and say, there's processes that need to be followed. We need to see these to the conclusion. We can't make any allegations yet. Or does he jump on his high horse and he goes, this shows you the white people have too much privilege in this country. It's amazing how there's rules for thee, but not for me.
But Byron, riddle me this. The election is 2 months away. Why is this happening? I mean, we know the NPA works with no urgency whatsoever. Not one person has gone to court or been found guilty of any charges of corruption since 1999 in this country, let alone members of the ANC. But all of a sudden, a relatively important member of the ANC is now, supposed to be in the dock based on charges of corruption. Very strange. Is she a sacrificial lamb for the ANC's election campaign? What's going on here?
Yeah, that's actually a really important question. And the answer is, I haven't got a Scoobies, because it's actually really quite strange. I mean, if you think about it from the ANC's perspective, the ANC is accused number one, Cyril's own words, right? They're accused number one for corruption. And let's face it, corruption under Cyril Ramaphosa has basically been corruption on steroids. It's the worst it's ever been. Jacob Zuma had nothing on this guy. This guy is literally the most corrupt government we've ever had. But there's a lot of pressure for him to relieve that corruption. to do something about it. Remember, he came to power on the ticket of being anti-corrupt. So you could argue that maybe what he's trying to do is say, look, most highest profile position in the country, being found in corruption, we did something about it. See, so we are hot in corruption, because it's a pretty serious position. That's one argument. And you may make that, but then I'd also counter that argument by saying, according to the MPA, they should have arrested this woman like 2 weeks ago. And they've actually delayed it. Now, how you can have a case delayed, this has been commented even in the case today. It sends a ban precedent to rapists, to killers, to murderers, to whatever else, because you're basically saying you can apply the Stalingrad strategy to your arrest. But with that aside, Ramon, I can't see how that is the case, because this is a very serious individual who's held ministerial portfolios. Let us not forget that when she was Minister of Defense, she famously, during the lockdowns, when all the borders were closed, flew a delegate to Zimbabwe and basically violated the lockdowns on a military jet. And this was ultimately why she was moved out of that portfolio into Speaker of Parliament. So it's quite curious. If you're protecting her in one respect and you're putting her in a very serious position, do you really want to put her up as another poster child that was protected by Cyril? Because Cyril could have fired her years ago for breaking the lockdown. But he protected her and actually promoted her. And now it's another example of something coming back to bite him in the ass. Because effectively, yet again, Cyril has presided over the corrupt. And not only has he presided over it, but he's the one responsible for appointing them. And that can't be lost on the electorate entirely. Yes, I know our electorate is retarded, but it's not that retarded, is it?
Well, maybe it is that retarded. Another way to look at this is, well, maybe the charges were just inevitable. And the ANCs are saying to themselves, well, listen, Parliament's almost over, right? They're gone recess in a few weeks. Her term as Speaker is over prior to the elections, and then a new Speaker will be elected after the election. So maybe they're thinking to themselves, listen, let us be good for the election. The charges are coming up. Let's just fight corruption, right? Let's just act like we are. All she has to do is resign. She doesn't have to be found guilty. She doesn't have to go to jail. Nothing else is required. If she can just resign, or Cyril fires her, or whatever the case might be, that's a huge win for the ANC. And a huge win without actually doing anything material. So maybe she is indeed the sacrificial lamb. It's a win because the ANC is fighting corruption. Even though in this case, the corruption is worth 4.5 million rand, which is a lot of money for us ordinary people in the private sector. But for bribery, people don't even get out of bed for that.
Unfortunately, true. But Ramon, there are a few flaws in that plan. And that is, for this to happen, it literally highlights to everybody that the ANC is the most rotten mafia entity in the country. I'm not sure that they really want this on the verge of an election. It's arguable. Maybe they are just getting rid of her now because, as you say, Parliament's about to close. It's not a good look for an election campaign. And certainly the DA hasn't had that lost on them because they are obviously now punting this whole corruption thing to the nth degree. Cyril has resided over massive state collapse. And this is yet another example of it.